a massive video. This is going to be probably the longest video that I've done in terms of these catch-up movie reviews. Now, over the course of 2019, I have been seeing a lot this year as far as 2019 releases, but I don't have the time to review all the movies of 2019 that I have yet to get to. So this is going to be a big catch-up review video. We got Netflix movies, we have animated direct-to-video movies, we do have some other movies in here that I have yet to get to, and I'm going to cover them all over the course in one video. Now, before I get started, if you've seen any of these movies, be sure to tell me in the comments section down below what you think of each one. Do you hate them? Do you like them? Or somewhere in the middle? And also, timestamps will be provided in the description down below, as well as descriptions for each movie. So, with that being said, enjoy it. And I'm not going to go too much into each film because I want to make this as short enough as possible, maybe an hour and something, because there's just a lot of movies here to talk about, and these are the ones that I've yet to get to. So when the camera on here, when I press stop recording, it's gonna cut straight to picture after picture after picture, and then at the end I'll come back and close out the video in regular form. So here we go. Starting this off with Yesterday, and this was directed by Danny Boyle, stars Himesh Patel and Lily James, Kate McKinnon, Ed Sheeran, and tells the story of a struggling singer and songwriter in his side town whose dreams of fame are rapidly fading despite the fierce devotion and support of his childhood best friend. After a freak accident on a bus during a global blackout, Jack discovers the Beatles have never existed. Performing songs by the greatest band in history to a world he's never heard, he becomes an overnight sensation with a little help from his agent, but also faces consequences in the case of his childhood friend. Yesterday, I was actually really interested in it because it actually had a good story around it. And then when I found out Danny Boyle was directing it, I became very interested in it. And I will say that for the most part, Yesterday was really good. I really loved the lighter tone and the musical sequences that they have going for it. The musical sequences with Jack performing the Beatles songs I thought were some of my favorite parts of the film. And I thought the performances in this movie, especially from Himesh Patel and Lily James and the cast, was really great. I gotta say, the direction by Danny Boyle was nice, and the script was well done. And the film has received criticism for the simplicity, but I like the fact that it's just a simple plot. It's not a lot of stuff going on. I will say that's my favorite part of the movie, is that it is a simple plot, and I do like the lighter tone and the musical sequences. And the songs that they chose by the Beatles are really well done. And for the hour and 56 minutes, I was pretty invested. There are some times where it did get a little familiar in terms of the storytelling, and there were some cast members I felt like they got underused. And originally Ana de Armas was in this movie, but unfortunately she was cut from the film. But I will ultimately say that despite the familiarity of it, and despite some underusage of some of the characters, and the film kind of going on for way too long, I will say that this movie was actually really surprising. Definitely one of the more overlooked, underrated films of this year. It is a very well-made movie with some great performances and great direction, especially on the performance of its main leads, Lily James and Himesh Patel. And I will definitely give this worth the shot if you like the Beatles and if you like rock music, or if you like movies with musical sequences. But if you are disappointed with the fact that this is going to be a simple plot, this movie will not be for you. But I will say that ultimately it is a welcoming surprise. I'm very glad that I gave the movie a watch, and I'm stunned that not many people like this movie. I feel like I'm one of the only few people out here who do like this movie besides Caillou Pettis and Sean Chandler. Because it's like everyone else kind of doesn't like the movie. But ultimately, this is still a very entertaining film that is well done and is well made. And I will say, check it out if you get a chance on Netflix, DVD, or Blu-ray. And because of the fun moments, because of the chemistry of the two leads, because of its light tone, because it was simple, I am going to be generous and I'm going to be nice because I overall really liked yesterday, and I am going to give yesterday a highly recommended. So definitely worth that price of admission if you were one of those people who didn't really like this movie. This is a very overlooked film and underrated film that is not on my underrated list, but is a really good film that's worth checking out. Next up here we have Triple Frontier, which was a Netflix movie directed by J.C. Chandor, stars Ben Affleck, Oscar Isaac, Charlie Hunnam, Garrett Hedlund, Pedro Pascal, aka the Mandalorian himself, and Adria Arjona. And the plot is that former Special Force operatives reunite to plan a heist in a sparsely populated multi-border zone of South America. For the first time in their prestigious careers, these unsung heroes undertake this dangerous mission for themselves instead of the country. And when events take an unexpected turn to threaten and spiral out of control, their skills, loyalties, and morals are pushed to a breaking point in an epic battle for survival. Triple Frontier was actually really fun. Now, it does take a while for the movie to get going, which is one of my issues with this movie. It's 2 hours and 5 minutes too long. And also, there is one of these characters in this movie that I consider to be unlikable. But all in all, I thought this was a really good film. And J.C. Chandor directs this very well. You you get to know the characters of these five men pretty well. I will say the music by Disaster Piece and cinematography was well done. And I really liked the acting from Ben Affleck, Oscar Isaac, Charlie Hunnam, Garrett Hedlund, Pedro Pascal, and Adria Arjona is a total babe. So she's great. It is R rated, so you do get the action, and I will say the action is well done. You get some great action, and it is brutal, it is visceral, it doesn't pull any punches, it definitely goes for what it was trying to go for. Again, those issues that does hold this movie back, unfortunately, is the runtime, and there is the one character that is unlikable. But Triple Frontier still managed to impress me with its action, with its performances, and with the plot that really is interesting with these five men doing this mission and their loyalty is tested. So ultimately, at the end of the day, I'm going to give this the same grade I gave yesterday, which was a highly recommended. If this is still on Netflix, I would suggest checking it out. It's pretty solid. It's pretty entertaining. It sucks that Ben Affleck is not Batman anymore, but you know what? At least he had this movie and after Justice League, and I am very interested to see more action films from Netflix. And you will be seeing a lot of Netflix reviews on this catch up. So, with that being said, Triple Frontier is very fun, very good, and worth the price of admission that I'm giving it. And it's a good movie. So I have nothing more to say about Triple Frontier other than give this movie a shot. But just prepare yourself for the 2 hour and 5 minute runtime because it is long and it does drag out at points. but it's not to the point of absurdity where it drags out and becomes uncomfortably boring. So ultimately, Triple Frontier definitely gets a highly recommended from me because I did enjoy the plot. I did enjoy the chemistry of the five lead actors, and I did have a good time watching this film. So I really am being generous here on this. Next up, we have the romance movie Isn't It Romantic, starring Rebel Wilson. And this movie, of course, tells the story of Natalie. And Natalie is a New York architect who works hard to get noticed at her job, but is more likely to deliver coffee and bagels than design the city's next skyscraper. Things go from bad to weird when she gets knocked unconscious during the subway mugging and magically wakes up to find herself in an alternate universe. Always cynical about love, her worst nightmare soon comes true when she suddenly discovers that she's playing the lead in a real life romantic comedy. Sounds interesting for a plot here. I gotta say, Isn't It Romantic was a pretty good satirical romantic comedy from Tasha Stolson. Rebel Wilson is still on the move after the Pitch Perfect trilogy is done and over with. I really liked her performance in this movie. I thought she was the standout. I really liked the story of this movie. Adam Devine, it's good to see him reunite with Rebel Wilson again. Priyanka Chopra, I thought she was great. A lot of people don't think she's a talented actress. Betty Gilpin, I thought was really good. Jennifer Saunders was good. And I thought the cinematography and the editing and the music was really good. And I like how the movie makes fun of the romance comedies and their cliches. And I really do like that. And I love the way the movie played out. It wasn't as overbearing as I thought it was, and this is also written by the same the same writers from Booksmart, so that also kind of helped. My only flaw with Isn't It Romantic is Liam Hemsworth. He's not bad. He's just not really great here. And I felt like he was kind of just wasting his time. But all in all, I will say that the movie still interested me enough due to Rebel Wilson's performance, due to the interesting choices of the story that they decided to go along with, due to a lot of the fun moments that this movie had. And this movie does rely on Rebel Wilson's awesome performance. And it's also very well done in terms of its making fun of cliches. So, isn't it romantic? I'm being generous here, and I'm going to do it. I'm gonna give this the same grade I gave Triple Frontier and Yesterday, and that is going to be a highly recommended. It does have its cliches as any other romance movie, but Isn't It Romantic was definitely a lot better than I thought it was gonna be, and is not that bad of a film. So I definitely do recommend you watch Isn't It Romantic. But if you are someone who isn't a fan of Rebel Wilson, this movie isn't going to do you any favors, and you might not like this movie. But at least be open minded and give it a chance. One watch won't kill you. And that is my honest great opinion there. Because this is a really good film. It's a good, heartfelt comedy romance film. It's not the worst movie ever made, but it is kind of overlooked. But I still ended up enjoying it for what it was. So, my grade again is a highly recommended. Next up we have another romance film called The Perfect Date, which was released on Netflix, starring Noah Centineo, Laura Marano, and Camila Mendez. And the story is about a high school student creating an app to offer his services as a fake date to make money for college. When he develops feelings for someone, his plans get complicated. The Perfect Date, I was actually interested in it because it has a pretty good story behind it. I really did like the idea of the story of The Perfect Date, and I will say The Perfect Date is is another good romance film. This was another great romance film. It's far from a perfect movie. It does have its flaws in terms of the romance, but I will say that it does show us a fun and overly familiar time. But I still was willing to go along with this film and still have fun with watching the movie because it wasn't too terrible. The best part of this movie is Noah Centieno's performance. I thought Noah Centineo was great. Laura Marano was also really great. For her little screen time, Camila Mendez, aka Veronica Lodge from Riverdale, was also really great. And I also love the rest of the performances by Matt Walsh, Joe Crest, and Carrie Lazar. And Odysseus Georgias. You do have him trying to struggle to to get into Yale, but it does provide enough there in the script for an hour and 30 minutes. It's not like the movie is boring. It's not dull. It is a, a lot of fun to watch Noah Centineo act the way that he does and flirt with both Laura Marano and Camila Mendez. Honestly, who wouldn't want to flirt with Camila Mendez? You'd be a fool if you didn't. But anyways, the chemistry between Noah Centineo and Laura Marano is also really great. It does have its flaws, like it does feel like it's overly familiar, and it did slow down in the second half, and Camila Mendez did get underused. But overall, I thought The Perfect Date was a lot better than I expected it to be. I expected this to be a very boring romance film, but it actually turned out to be a very good one. And for that reason alone, I will give The Perfect Date its due and say watch it on Netflix. And this is a really good film, and I'm gonna give it an Epictastic. Unfortunately, Netflix did have disappointments with Velvet Buzzsaw. This is written and directed by Dan Gilroy, stars Jake Gyllenhaal, Rene Russo, Toni Collette, Zev Ashton, Natalia Diner, John Malkovich, and Billy Magnuson. And the plot of this movie is an art critic attends an art exhibition alongside his friend who works for Rodar Hayes, owner of the Hayes Gallery and a former member of Velvet Buzzsaw rock band. So after these paintings by unknown artists is discovered, a supernatural force reenacts revenge on those who have allowed their greed to get in the way of arts. Interesting premise, but Velvet Buzzsaw was very weird. This is a very weird and odd film, and I don't know what to make of this film. The performances are the best part of this movie. Jake Gyllenhaal is always great. He was great as Mysterio this year. Rene Russo, Natalia Dyer from Stranger Things, Toni Collette, Marco Beltrami, Buck Sanders' musical score was also really great, and it's shot very well. The problem that this movie has is its execution, its writing, and its slow pace. Because it did get uncomfortably slow in terms of the film's length. This is an hour and 58 minutes, and it did feel slow. And it does become weird and crazy and all kinds of screwed up. So I can't really describe how crazy and screwed up this movie got, but is like that. And the premise does go somewhere, but there are moments where it feels like you're just sitting there, like, okay, I don't know what's going on. And also, the movie gets very full of itself by the final act. I'm like, okay, you just went completely bonkers there. And that's kind of a shame because I was actually kind of somewhat interested in this. But unfortunately, the movie did not live up to the expectations for me. So, Velvet Buzzsaw, if you want to give it a shot, it's on Netflix. You can go watch it, but at the same time, I would not even recommend watching Velvet Buzzsaw because you are going to be disappointed just like me. And if you got enjoyment out of this movie, that's perfectly fine. But I wanted to, but Velvet Buzzsaw, this ended up being one of my biggest disappointments of 2019, unfortunately. So, yeah. Because of the acting, though, I am going to spare this movie a bad grade, and I will give this movie a wait for Netflix at best. You can watch it on Netflix, is there, but nothing special. With an interesting premise, though, it should have been a lot better. This should have been a lot better. Unfortunately, it isn't. It's kind of boring. It's kind of lazy. And it's kind of uncomfortably slow. And it gets way too weird for me at the end of this movie. So, Velvet Buzzsaw, I really don't have a whole lot more to say except, yeah, watch it on Netflix. It's average. And I'm being vague on this because this is a hard movie for me to talk about. It's a hard movie for me to talk about. Because there are some interesting things, but there is also some very weird things that goes on in this movie. I'm like, okay, you got way too weird for me, movie. Way too freaking weird. Way too weird for me whatsoever. But all in all, it's fine. You have great performances. Interesting premise that doesn't really fully take advantage of its potential. So, you can watch this thing on Netflix. Next up, we have Batman vs. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. You will see some direct-to-DVD animated films on this list, and Batman vs. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was a fun movie. It was fun to see Batman interact with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So you have Batman and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is based on the 6-issue intercompany crossover comic book miniseries of the same name, so you have Batman, Robin, and Batgirl teaming up with Leonardo, Donatello, Michelangelo, and Raphael to save Gotham City from the Shredder and the Ra's al Ghul. That's basically the plot of this. And this was fun. It was a fun, little, entertaining, animated Batman Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle crossover. It And I do think the animation style is very well done. It's very well chosen. So you gotta give credit to the animation because the animation is really well done, and the voice acting is really well done, from Darren Criss to Troy Baker to Ben Garrix to Tara Strong's Harley Quinn. I gotta say, it was fine to watch. Only gripe, however, is Donatello. Got a little bit annoying, but I still thought he did bring his A game as a character, and he still really was a fun, awesome character. And seeing Batman, Robin, and Batgirl, and Harley Quinn in the mix, are you kidding me? That's fun. That should be awesome. And I'm surprised that Nickelodeon and Warner Brothers actually came together and do this. So that makes it all the more surprising that they actually came on board and did this. So, with that being said, with some great animation, great performances, and a very fun sense of humor, and just going balls to the wall crazy with its awesome crossover, Batman vs. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles definitely was entertaining. And I'm not going to tear the movie down if it entertained me. I did have my usual problems, and also the film, this is a little too short, but ultimately, I would give the movie credit for where credit is due. It actually knew what it was, and I also really loved the soundtrack of this. The soundtrack is really fun. I gotta say, you did a great job with that. So, I'm giving Batman vs. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles a highly recommended. Next up is Batman Justice League versus the Fatal Five. This is another direct-to-video animated film, and in this new film in the DC Universe animated original movie series in the DC animated universe, the fate of the Earth hangs in the balance when the Justice League faces the Fatal Five, who are a time-traveling band who terrorizes Metropolis in search of the budding Green Lantern. That sounds awesome. Just the plot alone sounds awesome. It's really awesome. It's really cool. I really dig the animation for the most part. I thought it was solid animation from this movie. The voice acting was really great with Kevin Conroy, Susan Eisenberg, George Newbern, Daniela Babetta, Tom Kenny, aka SpongeBob, Kevin Michael Richardson, Tara Strong. The animation was great. The animation is solid. And it was an hour and 27 minutes. I didn't really feel anything. And they took this story very seriously. Sam Liu and the writers of this, they knew what they were doing, and they didn't screw it up. Only gripe here with Justice League versus the Fatal Five is that it did kinda get a little weird after a while. But the time traveling band who terrorizes Metropolis was interesting to me. I did enjoy seeing Saturn Girl and Miss Martian and the Emerald Empress and Mano, Miss Terrific. Seeing all these new heroes that you're not really familiar with, while also seeing our original three, just original Justice League members, not original three, was also something really fun. And I have to give credit once again to DC Animation and to Warner Bros. Animation, because when you do good with their animation, you get some really great results. So I gotta say, they really took this seriously, and they did not mess it up at all. So ultimately, I am definitely giving this the admission that it deserves. It's almost perfection, but it's it's still really good for a Justice League versus Fatal 5 animated flick. It is awesome. It is awesome. It is awesome. And I will give this film a Better Than Vampire Academy for its awesome animated story, for its interesting premise, for its fun times that it has, seeing all the superheroes together. I gotta give the a movie praise, and this is definitely one of my favorite animated films. This is one of the only good animated movies to come out of this year, with Toy Story 4, Angry Birds 2, Batman vs. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, etc., etc. Because this year has not been the greatest for animated films, but it could have been worse. Could have been worse. Could have been a hell of a lot worse. But I'm going to give this a Better Than Vampire Diaries. Because it was that awesome. And I did enjoy myself. So I am going to give this movie an Epitastic. No. Better Than Vampire Academy. I almost said Epitastic. This was fun. It was cool. It was awesome. It was entertaining. Definitely give this a shot. And I think I might get this. So, Better Than Vampire Academy. Or Vampire Diaries, I'm sorry about that. Next up is Nancy Drew in the Hidden Staircase, based on the book of the same name by Carolyn Keene, which was adapted earlier from a 1939 film. Produced by Ellen DeGeneres and stars Sophia Lillis as Nancy Drew. And in this movie, after her mother's death, 16-year-old sleuth Nancy Drew and her father Carson relocate from Chicago to River Heights. Nancy struggles to fit in while Carson is inactive in local politics. So what happens is she befriends Helen, the local mean girl, and together they investigate the haunting of the Twin Elms. I haven't read a whole lot of Nancy Drew, but I do remember seeing the 2007 movie with Emma Roberts, and I thought that was a pretty good film. I will say the Nancy Drew in the Hidden Staircase was pretty good. It wasn't great. I do prefer the Nancy Drew movie with Emma Roberts, but I still very much liked what Nancy Drew in the Hidden Staircase provided. You have Nancy Drew trying to fit in, and Nancy investigating this haunting of the Twin Elms, which I thought was very fun and very cool. For the hour and 39 minutes, it was a pretty fun teen mystery film. And Sophia Lillis doing a great job as Nancy Drew. I really liked her performance, and I thought there was a lot of funny, clever moments that they had going for the film. And Sophia and the rest of the cast in the movie was great. Zoe Renee, Mackenzie Graham, Laura Slater Wiggins. The rest of the cast in this movie was really great. Ellen DeGeneres also produces this, so I gotta say she did a good job knowing what she wanted to produce. Only gripe with this movie. Only gripe. Some of the other supporting cast is kind of forgettable, though. But is not too shabby of bad performances, because they all still give good jobs in their performances and what they need to do. I still very much liked what this movie was trying to do, and I do like the musical score and the way this movie is directed and the way this movie is written, even though you could have done better in terms of the direction. It wasn't like oh, this movie sucks. This movie is so stupid, it's so boring, it's this and that, and this and that. No, this was a genuine good film with heart, with a great performance from its leading actress, who I can't wait to see more of in the next decade. It's interesting take on the Nancy Drew mythology, and while it's definitely not better than the Emma Roberts Nancy Drew movie, it's still a very good film in its own right. So, with that being said, Nancy Drew and the Hidden Staircase, I am being generous, and I am going to give this the grade of my Epitastic because it was good. It had great performance from its lead. It wasn't too bad. It wasn't boring, and it wasn't lazy. So it it was good for a film. It's not the worst movie ever. It's definitely not gonna end up on my best movies of the year, but it is a good film in its own right that definitely knew what it was doing, that definitely gets the point of what it's wanting to do, and if it's a having fun with the character Nancy Drew, I can't complain. So I'm giving the film its grade of Epitastic. Definitely check this out. You will not be disappointed. But if you are not into Nancy Drew or teen mysteries, this ain't gonna be something up your alley. But I will say give it a watch. Next up, we have another animated film, The Secret Life of Pets 2, which I initially recorded a review of, but I don't really have that review up anymore. But the plot of The Secret Life of Pets 2 is this is the sequel to 2016 surprise, The Secret Life of Pets, and Max the Terrier must cope with some major life changes when his owner gets married and has a baby. When the family takes a trip to the countryside, nervous Max has numerous run-ins with canine intolerant cows, hostile foxes, and the scary turkey. Luckily for Max, he soon catches a break when he meets Rooster, who is a gruff farm dog who tries to cure the lovable pooch of his neuroses. Going into Secret Life of Pets 2, I wasn't sure if we needed another Secret Life of Pets, but I did like the first one, and Secret Life of Pets 2 was fine. It was a fine sequel. It wasn't great as the first one. I do prefer the first one, but it was better than the Ugly Dolls. I will say the direction is nice once again. The writing is still fine, and I do love the voice acting in this movie, and this is the first time that Harrison Ford actually does a voiceover character. So that was really awesome to see that, and he really did his job, and he really brought his A game. The rest of the cast, Ella, Eric Stonestreet, Jenny Slate, Ellie Camper, Kevin Hart, Lake Bell, Nick Kroll, Dan Carvey, Hannibal Buress, Bobby Monahan was also really great. You have Patton Oswalt replacing Louis C.K., who didn't come back for reasons I will not get into, but I will say that all the voice acting was really good. The animation was good to look at. This is an animated film. Of course, the animation is going to be good to look at. And I will say that there are a lot of funny moments and a lot of heartfelt moments for the sequel. Unfortunately, it doesn't really provide much of anything new for the hour and 26 minutes, but it was still fine. And I didn't really care for Tiffany Haddish's character all that much. I thought Tiffany Haddish could have been completely cut out. And I do enjoy the music by Alexandre Desplat. I do love the music in this film. And the music was also really well done. I do love the music. It was very good, and I do love the end of this movie because the end of the movie was really heartfelt. Because if you have a dog or an animal, they can be threatened by an easy challenge. But all in all, I thought that what the movie provided, it was still a nice, solid film that really knew what it was doing. So I'm gonna give it highly recommended. Next up is I Am Mother. This is a sci-fi thriller that came on Netflix, and this is directed by Grant Sputor. Stars Clara Rugaard, Rose Byrne, Hilary Swank, and Luke Hager. And this follows Clara in a girl in a post-apocalyptic bunker being raised by Mother, who is an android supposed to aid in the repopulation of Earth. That's pretty much the plot of the film, and their bond is tested when a stranger arrives with some alarming news. I Am Mother was good. It was a good Netflix movie. Netflix has been doing good this year with a lot of their good movies, and with Stranger Things season 3, and with the miniseries Unbelievable with Caitlin Dever, to make up for a disappointing movie like Velvet Buzzsaw, and for the very disappointing third season of 13 Reasons Why, which I absolutely hated. I will say this story with the daughter and the mother, the bond is easily the best thing about it. Luke Hawker does the performance, and Rose Byrne does the voice, and Hilary Swank does play the women. And there's not a whole lot of actors in this movie, but I do like the suit of the mother robot. It is a full suit, so the fact that this was on the 2016 blacklist, and this is the first feature film for its director, was really impressive here. It did go into some very hard to watch breaking places. It is very suspenseful and intelligent. It is ambitious that achieves its impressive aims. So I gotta give the movie credit for that. And it did kind of go into some weird aspects that you normally wouldn't see in a Netflix film or a sci-fi film about a girl being in a post-apocalyptic world. So you did that right. So I gotta give credit for that because you actually pulled that off very well. And there were moments where I felt like the story did justice to its main characters. And the voiceover work by Rose Byrne is absolutely great, and the performance work of the robot was really good. The only gripe was that I felt like the movie ran on for a little too long, at only an hour 55 minutes, and it did kind of overstay its welcome a bit, but once it got its point across, the movie was still great. So I'm going to give I Am Mother an Epictastic. Escape Plan 3, The Extractors, was certainly a lot better than Escape Plan 2, Hades. A lot better than that movie because I did not like Escape Plan 2, Hades. And we follow Ray Breslin, and he is hired to rescue the kidnapped daughter of Hong Kong tech mogul from a formidable Latvian prison, and his girlfriend is also captured in the process. So he and his team, Dave Bautista, 50 Cent, they all have to pull off a deadly rescue mission to confront their sadistic foe and save the hostages hidden in the depths of the prison complex before time runs out. Escape Plan The Extractors was a lot better than Escape Plan 2 Hades. For one, it doesn't really feel like it's boring for the hour and 27 minutes. It still felt like it was being a fun action film. The cast still pretty entertaining. Stallone, Batista, and 50 Cent, and Jamie King returning from the previous films, while also having new actors like Melissa Zhao and Devon Sawa and Maxine. The action is where it's at. The action is fun. It's shot very well by the director and writer John Hertzfeld, who directed The Death and Life of Bobby Z. Action wise, there's a lot of fun action when you do get around to it. It didn't feel as sluggish as the second one. I still miss Arnold Schwarzenegger, but he was busy doing Terminator Dark Fate, so that is a waste that he didn't get asked to come back. But for what it was worth, I still ultimately had a blast with Escape Plan, The Extractors. Major gripe is that it did feel like his villain was just the cartoonish villain. He was just the cartoonish villain to do bad things, but it didn't change the fact that he was still a really good villain despite that. But the performance of the villain was great, and you had some fun this time around with Escape Plan 3. So while it doesn't reach the heights of the first movie, I will say that Escape Plan 3, The Extractors, is definitely a lot better than this whatever that second one was, because that second one did not know what it wanted to be at all. So Escape Plan, The Extractors, it was fun. It was entertaining. It was awesome. Now I'm going to spare this movie, and I'm going to give it and highly recommend it because I did enjoy myself watching Escape Plan The Extractors. It's not perfect, but at least it was better than most of the bad action movies in this decade. I do prefer Rambo Last Blood if you're asking which Sylvester Stallone movie I do prefer, but this was actually decent, and it wasn't too bad. So I would give Escape Plan 3 highly recommended. Always Be My Maybe was a romantic comedy film written by Ali Wong, Randall Park, and Michael Gomako, directed by Nachinat Kakang, premiered on Netflix. And it stars the two writers. And the story of Always Be My Maybe is that childhood sweethearts have a falling out and they don't speak in 16 years. They are from San Francisco who have not been in touch since a brief teenage fling ended badly. In those years, since they've grown up in vastly different circumstances. Sasha is a celebrity chief, while Marcus is still living in his childhood bedroom and working for his father's air conditioning service. His life largely frozen since his mother's premature death. And so they reconnect when Sasha returns to San Francisco to open a restaurant, and romantic chemistry from their teenage years remains. But Marcus's fears and Sasha's fame and demanding career does challenge their relationship. This was actually a really good surprise. another good romance movie. How many times do I have to say that in these videos? Because romance movies this year has been iffy. It doesn't reach the heights of Fall in Love at First Kiss, but it it's alright. I'm willing to take anything over the movie I hate. Performances wise, I do love the two performances of the two main leads. They the script is very well written, is very well done. I really love the script. It's like their own version of When Harry Met Sally, and I do like the fact that it does make fun of the 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 song. The title makes fun of the song by Mariah Carey, and it takes a lot of familiar romantic com beats and it layers in smart social commentary, which is why I enjoy it about the movie. Besides the chemistry of its two leads, Keanu Reeves cameos as himself, so that was actually pretty cool, and couldn't believe they actually got him for his movie. And the way this movie looks and the way this movie is shot is very well done. I do like the way this movie is shot, and it looks very competent for the film. It looks well shot, well executed, well done, and it just felt like you were watching a fun movie there. It it was a lot of fun. It was very entertaining to see, and you had a lot of great moments going for you in the film. So I don't really have a whole lot to say with Always Be My Maybe, except for the fact that I wish this movie was a little bit longer, because I was enjoying it for the hour and 42 minutes, but I did like the music, I did like the way this movie is shot, and I do love the editing here. And so, for that reason alone, this isn't a bad film. This is a great romance film. It is a lot better than I could easily anticipate, because I didn't know much going in, and what I got was actually a really good film. So, yes, Always Be My Maybe is a really good movie. Definitely one of the best films of the year. Definitely one of my favorite films from Netflix. I'm glad I gave this movie a shot. And for that reason alone, I am going to go ahead and give Always Be My Maybe an Epictastic. Because I did love the romance between the two characters. I loved the two performances. And I ultimately really enjoyed what the movie was going for. So, with that being said, Always Be My Maybe was great. Next up, we have Teen Spirit. This was a musical drama. It came out in 2018, but it wasn't released till 2019 in April. It came out in film festivals, and Teen Spirit is a musical drama directed by Max Minghella in his first film debut, and also written by him. Stars Elle Fanning and Rebecca Hall. And the plot of this awesome film is Violet is a shy teenager living in a small European town and dreams of pop stardom as an escape from her dismal surroundings and shattered family life. With the help of an unlikely mentor, Violet enters a international singing competition that will test her integrity, talent, and ambition. And Teen Spirit was actually really good. This was a really good film. I thought that it was a nice little musical film. It's definitely not as good as Star is Born, but I thought for what we got, it was great. It was really good. And it was very entertaining to watch Elle Fanning sing a lot of songs, and it's actually her actually singing and not someone dubbing her over. This is really great, and you do have performances of music from Robin, Ellie Goulding, Ariana Grande, Tegan and Sarah, Katy Perry, The Undertones, Annie Lennox. That is a lot of. And you do have a cover of Dancing on My Own, which I really liked. And I do love the soundtrack in this movie. Acting wise, Elle Fanning is always great. She's a great actress. Loved her ever since Super 8, and she's equally as talented as her sister Dakota Fanning. Rebecca Hall is okay. She is just there. She's not that bad. But honestly, I do really enjoy watching the film that we get. It is fun. It is watchable. It is a good movie that really does challenge what the movie is trying to be a story of, and I really loved the story. I thought the performances were great, and the rest of the cast was very good. I do love the direction and cinematography from the first time director, who's also an actor, so that was really awesome. I have nothing more to say about it except watch Teen Spirit. I'm gonna give Teen Spirit an Epitastic. It's awesome. A few more reviews and we'll end this. Next up is The King, starring Timothy Chalamet and Robert Pattinson, Lily Rose Depp, Sean Harris, and Ben Mendelsohn. I gotta say that The King was a very nice historical drama. Now, this is directed by David Michaud, and Hal is a wayward prince and the reluctant heir to the English throne, and he has turned his back on royal life and he's living among the people. But when his tyrannical father dies, Hal is crowned King Henry V and is forced to embrace the life he had previously tried to escape. And so now the young king must navigate the palace politics, chaos, and war his father left behind, and the emotional strings of his past life, including his relationship with his closest friend and mentor, the aging alcoholic knight John Falstaff. This is based on Henry Parts 4 and 5 by William Shakespeare, and I will say this was great. This was great, and not only that, the director of this movie also produces and writes this movie with Joel Edgerton, who also writes and produces this movie and as well stars in it. This is the first movie I've seen Timothy Chalamet in. I know he's been in other movies, including Call Me by Your Name, which I have not seen, but he was great as Hal. You could tell he doesn't want to follow the same footsteps of his father and not do what he wants to do. But I really enjoy his performance as well. And I gotta say, Joel Edgerton and Sean Harris and Lily Rose Depp, they're also really great. You had Lily Rose Depp, she's the daughter of Johnny Depp. Robert Pattinson and Ben Mendelsohn are also really good as well. It's great to see Robert Pattinson moving on from the Twilight saga and doing something awesome. And I gotta say that the musical score by Nicholas Britell is really great, and also cinematography wise is good, and the editing is well done. You get some great shots, great cinematography going for you. It's very well done. It's very well utilized to its full potential. My only gripe with The King is that it did feel a little too long. It did feel a little too long And I'm not going to take away anything from that. And The King, it is less than the sum of its impressive parts, but you got some strong performances in this movie and some great costume design, production, and hair and makeup. So it really does a good job at doing that. It does go into similar territory, but you know what? At least it's better than a lot of other movies, historical films, unlike Pearl Harbor and Midway. And I honestly can't help myself but enjoy The King. I am a sucker for historical films, and I am a sucker for Shakespeare. So I gotta say, The King did his job well in making its point across, in doing what it needed to do. And I will say that Timothy Chalamet's performance, as well as the great direction and performances of the rest of the cast, is the reason to watch this movie. Because this is a really good film, and I have to say that you did a good job in portraying this story. So I'm going to go ahead and give The King an Epitastic. Alright, so next up is 5 Feet Apart. 5 Feet Apart, this is a romance film. Of course, 5 Feet Apart stars Haley Richardson and Cole Sprouse and Moises Arias, and tells the story of 2 young patients with cystic fibrosis as they try and have a relationship despite always being forced to stay at a certain distance from each other. So Stella spends most of her time in the hospital as a patient, and her life is full of routineness, boundaries, and self-control, all of which gets put to the test when she meets Will, and possibly Charlie Teen, who has the same illness. And the restrictions say they stay away, but as the connection intensifies, the temptation to throw the rules out the window and embrace their attraction. 5 Feet Apart, this is easily an underrated film. This is a very underrated film that I think is a really good romantic film. This movie didn't get the best of the love when it came out. I don't really know why, but ultimately for me, it still did its job what it needed to do. It was good. I really liked the chemistry between Haley Lou Richardson and Cole Sprouse as the two who are in love with each other, who can't be no more than apart, any more apart from each other than they are. So I really did like their performances as well. Yeah, I thought they really did the best that they could in the performance. You also have Moises Arias and the rest of the cast members in here, and they all do a really great job. Well, the music by Brian Tyler and the cinematography work was really well done. And I did like the direction by Justin Baldini. And you could tell that he directs this very well, and it does have its cliches here and there, which is the biggest issue because you do see it coming from a mile away that one of them is going to die from the CF. And you do see it coming that a lot of cliches along the way, but 5 Feet Apart was one of the better romance films that I've watched all year. And I was meant to review this back in March, but I didn't. So that's why I'm reviewing it now, just to get these 2019 catch-up reviews out the way. But 5 Feet Apart is also overall a good film. It's a good film with great chemistry between its two leads and an emotional heart. It definitely could have been a little better in terms of writing, but at least it was better than after. I'll say that because, to tell you the truth, anything is better than that piece of crap. Obviously. So yeah, I will give this movie the highly recommended because it was very well done. It was very well acted, and it did its job. It did its job, and I overall enjoyed myself with the film. So, overall, I have nothing more to say about 5 Feet Apart except watch it. This is a highly recommended film that I am giving, and if you haven't seen it, watch it. Next up is Teen Titans Go versus Teen Titans. In this one, the newer Teen Titans Go, they takes on their 2003 counterparts when villains from each of their worlds join forces to pit the two Titan teams to get against each other. They'll need to set aside their differences and work together to combat Trigon, Hexagon, Santa Claus, and time itself in order to save the multiverse. I was aware this was coming out, but if you saw my rant on it, I was not a fan of Teen Titans Go to the movies, but I am a fan of the original Teen Titans. And I will say, Teen Titans Go versus Teen Titans was fun. This was fun. It's definitely not as awesome as you Into Spider-Verse, because it does remind me a lot of Spider-Man Into Spider-Verse, but I will say there was a lot of good that came out of this movie in terms of animation process. The best part of the film was seeing these characters interact with the 2003 counterparts, and I did like that part. That was actually the good part of the film, to see that, and you get some good moments of fun. The animation was really well done. I do love the animation that they have going for you here. The voice acting was great from everyone. Greg Sipes, Scott Manville, Tara Strong, even from the original actors. So the fact that these actors have to play both sides was really fun to see that. And you do get to see Darkseid in animation. You have Nightwing, Santa Claus, and Mrs. Claus, which was also kind of weird, but also pretty fun. And then Raven accepting her demonic half of herself. I thought that was pretty insane, pretty good to see that. It did have its stepping stones of flaws when it came to some of it being a little predictable and some of it being overly drawn out. But it still managed to get its point across. It still managed to do its job in terms of the story, in terms of the way it's handled. Because you have both of the Teen Titans from the past and from now doing it what they do. And it was fun seeing them do what it is they do. And seeing them was also really good for it, and you get a lot of entertaining moments that goes for you, and it's just fun watching them fight off against each other. It's a lot of fun, definitely has its flaws, but it is definitely worth a shot. And I'm giving Teen Titans Go in first Teen Titans in Epictastic. Now we get on to the final review in this catch-up series, and that is Batman Hush. And unfortunately for me, Batman Hush was another one of my disappointing films of 2019. This is the 13th installment of the DC animated movie universe and the 35th overall in the DC Universe animated original movies. And in this movie, it follows Batman facing a new threat named Hush, and he uses a gallery of villains to destroy Batman's crime-fighting career as well as Bruce Wayne's personal life, which has been further complicated by a relationship with Selina Kyle, aka Catwoman. And Hush, he also knows all of Batman's secrets. And you also have Superman and Lois Lane into the mix as well. Batman Hush was okay, but I wish it was a lot better, because there are parts in this movie that is kind of bland, kind of boring, and there are some changes that I was not really a fan of. But it still has merits in terms of the voice acting and what they were trying to do. I do get the whole concept of Hush wanting to ruin Batman's life, and the weakest part of this movie is Hush as overall as a villain. He did disappoint in terms of how much he's in this movie, but he was threatening, he was cool, but I do wish there was more of him. And you don't have the element of surprise factor as much, and there are some other characters that you would wish had more to do, especially Batgirl and Robin and Edward Nygma, Hush, Riddler, but the animation is great for what is required. The voice acting is really great, and I do like the character development, which is interesting and compelling, as it should be. And you do handle a lot more on the relationship between Batman and Catwoman, which I always enjoy. And while you have seen this before involving the two, I like how it's done here. And the action scenes are fun and well done. And it ended in a very nice way, but it did become a little hard for me to get a little invested in between the rest of Hush's plan, and especially the changes that they make to Hush, which is pretty bad. So easily, yeah, you really kind of dropped the ball there. So that I can't really give you a full pass on that, because you did mess that up. But I will say Batman Hush was serviceable. It was a serviceable film. It's not bad for an animated DC Batman film, but could have been a lot better. But at the same time, you could have done a lot worse. So I'm going to go ahead and give this one a Redbox rental away for Netflix. I'm torn between the two, but Batman Hush was alright. Anyways, guys, that was my big, massive 2019 catch-up review video with a lot of movies I've seen from January to now. couldn't review them all over the span of the last remaining days of 2019. So it's been pretty big this year. So in the comments below, what do you think of each of these movies? If you see them down below, be sure to follow my social media links in the description box down below. You guys keep it cool and join the Epictasticness. I'll see you guys in the next review.